ever since the LEGO Star Wars Door Randomizer last year, I've been flooded with requests to make more. And while I did a couple of follow-ups, I've always wanted to take it further. Then, on July 7th of 2023, Viola created a brand new randomizer that takes everything you thought you knew about the game and throws it out the window. Random characters, random panels, random hats, random minikits, random red bricks, random challenge kits, random bounties, and whatever the hell this is. The only thing it doesn't randomize are the rooms. Well, because we tried that and it didn't go all too well. Whoa! 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 Oh, geez. This time, though, we're going to tackle the randomizer in the most difficult way we can, by not just beating the game, but 100%ing the whole goddamn thing. It'll take a lot of glitches, it'll take a lot of seizures, and plenty of ridiculous tricks. So let's walk you through the journey of 100%ing the LEGO Star Wars Randomizer on the absolute hardest super glitched setting. As with any randomizer, there's a few key things we're looking for as early as possible, mostly revolving around the game's red bricks. Because our characters are random in every level, we're not guaranteed a way through without some complicated glitches. This is why having a wider range of abilities, like being able to destroy silver objects or use the dark side of the Force in story mode, is vital to the run. There's obviously other important quality of life ones like score multipliers or invincibility, but they just aren't as essential. Aside from just the bricks, we're required to complete the bounty hunter missions for 100%, meaning we also need to unlock every bounty hunter character as well. This is where the previous attempt at this fell short, as we ran out of avenues to unlock more characters with. More different, right? The cuts... Making it a top priority this time around. It's because of this tiny bullet point that I knew upon starting a new game that we had been blessed with a lucky seed, as we immediately got one of the many hunters knocked off our list by spawning in with Dengar. It was just a matter of making it through the other 1,000 qualifications that stood in our way, like beating 1-1 negotiations. This was not an easy start. So the good news is we unlock Ghost Anakin right away, along with Rebel Friend and later on the Snowtrooper. The bad news is that none of these characters can use the panel blocking the first door. This is where super jump canceling, the most common piece of tech we'll be using, comes into play. This is complicated, so bear with me, but we'll need to position player 2 in a safe area right around here in the hallway. This tells the game that we're standing on safe ground, so if we somehow die, we have a valid place to respawn. If we then hug the wall super tight and get wedged into a corner, the game still thinks our last valid respawn point is back and around the corner, because we were way too close to the wall to set a new valid respawn point. By then tricking the game into thinking player 2 is stuck by continuously shoving them into said corner, they'll try and jump back to the valid area, which we can interrupt with a near frame-perfect force confusion, stopping them halfway on their jump and out of bounds. After swapping over and falling beneath the floor, we can walk all the way to the door to room 2. We'll be using this a lot in the run, as it's normally a surefire way to fall out of bounds anywhere, as long as we have a way to interrupt the super jump, of which there are a lot of weird methods. My favorite, I think, using the Lando kissing Leia's hand animation. This one's pretty good. In fact, we can use a rare 3-player form of it here in the end of the level, but instead of interrupting the jump, we want to switch to Rebel Friend when he's inside of the level and a trigger, getting us out of negotiations decently fast. So I was pretty shocked when I got the trick first try, but I was even more shocked when the random red brick I had picked up earlier inside the level just so happened to be exploding blaster bolts. The single best extra to get right away. I was on a call with a friend when all this happened, and the following chain of events was way too good to not have it play out candidly. What? No, it's insane.
Shut up. I'm gonna be real. It kind of seems like you're like building a narrative, you know, and like it's not actually random.
What do you know about LEGO Star Wars? What do you know about LEGO Star Wars?
That's a game with Legos and Star Wars in it. So
Damn, you know more than I know, actually.
Yeah, dude. I got you there.
If I get a useful character out of the Indiana Jones cutscene, then I'll let you say it was cheated.
Okay.
Give me a bounty hunter. Give me a Jedi. Give me a Sith. Oh, babe, we got a bounty hunter. It is cheated. You're right, Dylan.
I'm so right, dude.
You heard it here first. LEGO Star Wars is in fact LEGO and is about Star Wars. I'm not going to focus too much on the free play aspect of the run, because while the locations of the kits and bricks are random, they're all still easily collectible, and it's not as entertaining as when I'm forced to do dumb shit like this. Speaking of dumb shit, we unlocked Buzz Droid in level 2. Well, and the Emperor, but look, it's Buzz Droid. The randomizer mod also includes all the extra toggle characters as unlockables, and while they're all pretty useless, it's still cool. This level offered us very little challenge. The Emperor can kind of jump over like everything, and it's roughly the same with level 3. I did, however, unlock yet another bounty hunter here, and possibly the most optimal one, since he can use 3 different panel types, which is best shown in my very delayed reaction here. Oh, I got another bounty hunter though, what the f. Following a fairly uneventful and weirdly green pod race, which gave us invincibility by the way, we find ourselves inside of Retake Theed Palace, with a wonderful collection of characters such as Man, Evil Man, Small Man, Coughing Robot, Killing Robot, and Normal Robot. And Mr. Normal Robot over here ended up being one of the most tragic characters in the run, but we'll cover that way later. While this may seem like a nice, colorful cast that can get through anything, the level's second room proves that very wrong. We can't get 2 of our boys across to press down all the buttons, and although there is a super jump in the corner over here, I wasn't able to get a successful attempt over a long while of trying. There was a very dumb alternative strategy here that essentially comes down to simply pushing the buttons with enemies, and it's one that worked really well. Thanks to IG-88's ability to use all droid panel types, we were through into a nice and easy room 3, and another stupid room 4. Again, I'm not going to name any names, but some members of our party can't reach the buttons we need to get to up top, leading us to find a new method of getting out of bounds. Instead of super jumping, which is slow and lame, we can push one of our characters behind the transition barrier of the entrance of the room and maneuver around out of bounds to reach the window. I really messed this up on my first attempt and started a little side quest of Tiny Ewok's Large Mission, in which I just walked around below the stage until the game perma-killed me, leading to another attempt which I messed up, and then another, until finally I was through, killing only a few droids to push us into the last level of the episode, Darth Maul. This level started us off as 2 Saber characters. It went exactly how it was supposed to. Is what I would say if we also didn't unlock the extra for Force Grapple Leap, which ended up being insanely important for later, keep that in mind. Anyways, that was movie 1. I went back and cleaned up some stuff in free play, but mainly wanted to focus on continuing the story, which was abruptly cut short when I got to Kamino. We had Jango and Dooku as our characters, and while that is yet another bounty hunter, my luck cannot be stopped. Neither of these guys could use any of the panel types we found in the level, including the most annoying one in the button room. I knew of a super jump cancel to get out of bounds in the hallway, which made use of Jango's hover and was fairly simple to get down, but the main issue arose when it came time to physically enter the door. You can't jump straight up into it like other areas of the game, and you can't do much from behind it either, so I put a pin in episode 2 and moved on to 3 instead, which flew by. Again, we started with a character who has the same abilities as the normal pair you get in Chancellor and Peril, so it was a cakewalk. Potentially even easier than normal since Dengar can shoot Dooku when he's got you with the lightning. Grievous, as we all know, can be cheese as long as you've got a blaster character, which we did, and Kashyyyk posed us next to no issues. I mean, it would've if not for the clutch Force Grapple Leap pickup in Darth Maul. Without it, I would've had to bait all these stormtroopers over to the button area to press them down, which is extremely finicky and not fun to do. The only issue with me rushing through episode 3 is I wasn't grabbing nearly as many kits or bricks as I was in episode 1, but I felt like I was kind of on a roll. A feeling that was only reinforced when I realized I got yet another bounty hunter in Jedi Ruin. Oh, we got Bosk. See how excited I sound? I wasn't really sure how Ruin was gonna go. I always assumed a majority of the puzzles required 2 Jedi characters, and here we only had 1. I was brainstorming ways for us to get out of bounds when we got to the big door in room 2, but apparently you have more than enough time to open it with just 1 player. You learn something new every day. The same logic applies to the library, where just 1 Jedi can do the entire room, leaving us with only 1 level left in episode 3. Once again, this is the same exact archetype that you get casually. It is fun to imagine the whole "you were my brother" speech with these 2 characters, though.
You were my brother, Anakin! I loved you!
Please repeat.
I was feeling a little quirky and decided to skip episode 4 and go straight to 5 because, well, okay, I ran into a huge roadblock, but we'll talk about that later. Echo Base itself was a level I didn't know I could be scared of until I spawned in with 2 characters that had 0 panel access in a level full of random panels. Getting Obi-Wan was cool, I guess, but what's the use if you can't boodle-doo or bam bam bam? That's my impression of the sounds the panels make. I think I did a pretty good job there. This required us to do another really difficult super jump by using the boxes to keep player 2 stuck in a corner, then using the Force Confusion again. But try as I might, I just barely couldn't do it. These jumps can be pretty precise, and if you mess up your positioning even a little bit, the trick can fail to work. So I paused my recording while continuing to attempt to avoid taking up any more space. I mean, this thing was already almost 2 terabytes. After another 15 to 20 minutes, I eventually got the jump cancel and was able to precariously make my way to the door. And I bet a lot of you are checking to make sure your screens are still working. Don't worry, they are. I just never unpaused my recording from when I was practicing. My bad. On the bright side, here's a new easy way to get out of bounds. Crush someone's legs between a wall and a car, then simply walk your way to a different car and get the f*** out of there. As long as there weren't any cameras, it'll all be hearsay. Dagobah was a quick one, thanks once again to the Force Grapple Leap and the unlock of Boba Fett as the replacement for Yoda, who was luckily able to use the Bounty Hunter panel at the end of the training segment that's normally dedicated to R2. Sometimes things just work out. I also have to acknowledge how unbelievable the red brick is in this level. Like, why bother putting a panel in front of a gate if you're just going to leave a hole in the wall 5 feet to the left? I mean, come on. Once Dagobah was cleared, our current streak of steamrolling would come to an end, as nearly every single level from here on out was a pain. Starting with Betrayal over Bespin, a level that still confuses me even though I beat it. Alright, so long story short, we can't get this door open. I knew that there was some kind of super jump you could do with R2 in this room to get behind it easily, but for some reason, instead of jumping through the door, R2 just ended up in the room. This was good at first, as I thought I had just gotten insanely lucky, but because we never got the self-destruct red brick, the blue wall was impassable. Not to mention how low of a chance it was that the panel in the following hallway would still be an R2 panel. I needed Anakin in here bad. My first attempt was to try and recreate the situation that got R2 in there in the first place, which required an insanely tight jump around the wall. And I'm not saying that just to play it up, I mean, it's tough. When you jump against a wall, your player gets dragged down faster, so I needed to stay at the perfect distance away from the wall while still being tight enough to hit the platform. When Anakin eventually made the jump, I dropped him out, and when I called him back in, he was perfectly inside the second room, so step 1 was done. Unfortunately, earlier me was correct, and the following panel wasn't an R2 panel, and I had no way to get through this door. The only way I knew how to get out of bounds in this room required the pushable box, and I had already stupidly used that to make the turret, so you know what that means, let's do it all over again. We got the setup with less idiocracy this time, and I was able to use the box to sort of wedge Anakin into the wall, which was only one part of the equation, as we need to go through the wall. We can do this by creating artificial lag within the game by alt-tabbing in and out to mess with the game's collision. This sort of tech is normally banned in speedrunning, and according to the randomizer's logic shouldn't be required in the run at all, but this was the only out of bounds that I knew of, and I wouldn't need to use lag abuse ever again. Getting out of bounds was easier than getting in, which required a precisely timed jump to not get stuck below the catwalk, and because this didn't allow us to have R2 present in the Vader fight, we had to do another tight jump to clear the gap here. I think this is called Fast DV1. I don't know just how tight the jump is, but I've always heard runners talking about how difficult it is to save time with, so I was pumped I got it on my second try. Oh, but don't worry, just because the first half of the level was a pain doesn't mean the second part will be much better. Unless we wanted to run back to the hat panel and try to beat Vader without getting hit and losing our hat, we weren't going to be able to beat this room. Just for fun, I tried that and I lost my hat on the very last cycle. It was very disheartening. Luckily for us, we can use the most infamous LEGO Star Wars speedrunning skip, DV 2.1 or whatever the hell it's called now. It's a very lenient super jump cancel with R2 to get him out of bounds, then some other out of bounds hovering to hit the door to the following room. Shout out to Zach's Dead Simple tutorial series, I would probably be broke without them. You get the gist by this point, after a few more jumps, Bespin is over. This one level took up a whole page of the script on its own, and it wasn't even the most difficult level. Neither was a Cloud City Trap though, with the exception of the classic door clip. Hold on, that's the wrong video. Yeah, okay, no, this one is mine. Don't know how that one got in there. It was all very standard, including a bridge skip thanks to Django's hover, making for a pretty alright Empire Strikes Back. I was still scared of episode 2 and 4, so I figured that meant 6 was the best option. But I was wrong, so very wrong. I've neglected to mention so far that the force confusion method of super jump cancelling is probably the hardest, because unlike force lightning or even R2 stunning, it takes a super long time to actually stop the second player, which is the main issue I ran into here with the first super jump in 6-1. You guys already know how it works, but the jump wasn't necessarily the bad part, it's what came after. I needed the bounty hunter disguise from the previous room, but the gate was obviously still closed. I could jump through the gate with a spider droid on the other side, but there was none nearby, and I had already used the one on the inside of the gate to get my other player through, meaning I was soft-locked, and had to do the level all over again. We weren't out of the woods quite yet, because just a few rooms later, I soft-locked again by accidentally having Fast Force turned on, which destroyed the object you need to use to clip out of bounds, and had to do the whole level over again. And we still weren't even out of the woods, because after all of that and another out-of-bounds clip, we got into the Rancor fight with no character that could use panels, which made me think the randomizer was bugged. As it turns out, there was a Stormtrooper hat dispenser near Jabba's throne room, but because I was forced to use the out-of-bounds method to get down there and skip it, I had no idea. So I had to play the level again, get the helmet, then go out of bounds again, and then finally beat it. Anyways, Carcoon was pretty easy. I was fortunate enough to have characters that could do speeder skip too, which allowed us to skip approximately 100% of the speeder section, giving us a nice break before getting to the Battle of Endor, one of my least favorite levels in the game. All things considered, it didn't go too terribly. I mean, there was this one jump that took a minute to get down, as well as the really annoying out-of-bounds method inside the bunker to pull the lever that's normally behind the hatch, but thanks to the good timing of getting IG-88 and a Stormtrooper, we had all 4 of our panel types covered. Emperor Palpatine, as always, went just as good as it could have. We got to do the funny, movie-accurate kill by shoving him off an edge, but this meant I couldn't avoid episode 4 or 2 any longer, and I would have to stop being a little bitch boy. In order to make these as easy as possible on myself, I went back and I 100%ed every other episode. This included the episode bonuses, challenge kits, and most importantly, collecting every red brick I could. Obviously, free play is on the more boring side of the challenge, but I didn't want to omit it entirely, so welcome to a new segment on the channel called My Viewers Have Bad Opinions and BD1P is Always Correct, where I am going to sit in front of a camera and read out some of the controversial takes I asked for on my Twitter, while various free play clips play out behind me. We've got a lot of users saying that LEGO Batman 2 is the weakest of the DC games and is incredibly overrated, and that LEGO Batman 3 is somehow better. LEGO Batman 2 is a pretty solid game, and while I do still prefer the first, the second was a huge step forward for all things TT and LEGO. Overrated, maybe, but far from the worst. As for the character roster, every LEGO Batman game has sort of had a bad roster up until 3, and even in 3's case, it doesn't really make up for the other shortcomings the game has, in my opinion. LEGO City Undercover is one of the worst LEGO games IMO. LEGO Skywalker Saga didn't need or doesn't need character customization. As much as I like the mechanic in past LEGO games, I'd much rather have a more interesting open world with stuff to do. I pretty much agree with all of this. Not only would you have to restrict your character to one class based off the class system the game uses, but there's enough unique and a variety of characters in the game already, such as the big figs like Wampa or Rancor, or even more weird pieced ones like Claude, that I feel like I wouldn't have noticed the lack of a creator if the community hadn't brought it up over and over again. And despite the complaints of very samey overworlds and Kyber bricks, I still had a decent time going for 100% in the game. Not that I would do it again, but I would much rather have their focus be put on that than character creation stuff. LEGO Movie 2 games. Yeah, that's true. It's not a hot take, but I just want to complain about the vehicle levels in LEGO Indiana Jones 2: The Adventure Continues. They are the worst thing ever created by mankind and a blight on the world. Alright, well let me hit you with a hot take then. I think the vehicle levels in LEGO Indiana Jones 2 are the best part of the game and my favorite way a vehicle is ever controlled in any LEGO game. They're so fast and tight and bouncy and responsive, and the power-up mechanic the game uses is a lot of fun to mess around with. I would not mind if this sort of idea came back in the future. I just like, I don't know, jumping off cliffs and knocking cars around. I'm a guy. It's fun. There hasn't been a single bad LEGO game. This guy has never played LEGO Lil Wing. It is such a testament to how lazy developers are in the modern age. It is just a clear ripoff of Angry Birds. LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga isn't the best classic LEGO game. LEGO Indiana Jones easily clears it. Honestly, Cam, I would argue that the only two classic games that are worse than The Complete Saga are LEGO Star Wars 1 and LEGO Star Wars 2. Both Batman and Indiana Jones casually are so much more fun to complete. In short, I agree with you. Oh boy, LEGO Harry Potter is one of the best LEGO games next to Star Wars. Somehow you gave me one controversial take but ended up with two. 5 through 7 is a good game, but if you're talking about 1 through 4, the levels all tend to blend together after a while and they're very poorly paced. Some are way too long, some are way too short, and the hub world is just so annoying to navigate. LEGO Star Wars has a decent track record as a franchise of games, but some ones like The Force Awakens and parts of the Clone Wars definitely drag it down for me. I don't even know what I would consider to be TT Games' best LEGO franchise. In terms of quality, I guess Marvel is pretty even across the board, but I wouldn't even put a Marvel game in my top 3, so it's all up in the air, really. Some random guy says LEGO DC Supervillains is the best LEGO DC game. This is not the worst take you could have, Rugged, but I will say only one of the DC games has a cutscene where Robin gets decapitated by a sewer grate, so do with that information what you will. Just notice my hair's been standing up weirdly. Oh, look at that. I got like a space needle coming out of my head. I hope that gave you a good enough taste of the free play experience. If you want to be in the next segment of My Viewers Have Bad Opinions and BD1P is always right, leave a controversial take down below. Back to you, disembodied voice. Thank you, embodied voice. Episode 4 comes first, and let me finally explain to you why I had to avoid it for so long. So if things go fine for a while, we do have to rely on the RNG of our deflected bolts hitting the explosive crates when we first see Vader, but it's only a matter of time, albeit a long, long time. It's when we reach the force field barrier we hit our roadblock. While we can super jump out of bounds with either the Jawa or the Ugnaught to get past everything, we can't get past the door at the end of the claw room since it's locked by a bounty hunter panel. Now, there is a bounty hunter hat dispenser way back in the first segment of the level, but neither the Jawa nor the Ugnaught nor Darth Maul can wear it. Han Solo, the character we get behind the force field, can. But because he isn't officially added to our party until we remove the force field, he can't make it that far back. This led me to believe that the randomizer bugged out a little bit, and recognized that the level had Han Solo, but not that he couldn't reach the bounty hunter hat panel. So, I had to cheat. I don't know of any out-of-bounds clips in this room, and I really tried to avoid doing this, but it truly was the only option. Don't worry, this is the only time I had to do this, but if I get proven wrong and there is a method of beating it without cheats, I'll let you know in the pinned comment. Junland was uneventful. I mean, there were some out-of-bounds shenanigans, but I mean, come on. What did you expect this far into the video? Rescue the Princess also had some out-of-bounds stuff going on, but it's probably the easiest method of doing so in the entire game. Literally, all you need to do is fall off of this specific edge and hold in. That's it. Then we beat the level normally. Big surprise and escape as well, where we don't need to do anything super special, but we still do because it's fun. You can skip the entire last room of the level by deloading the stormtroopers who normally spawn, simply by going backwards from the grapple room and jumping in this corner. Don't ask me why it works, it just does. This lets us dive into the newly loaded end level trigger, finishing off the whole movie, besides the vehicle mission, which, if you haven't noticed, I've been skipping over those because really nothing changes. This leaves us with 1 episode, 6 bonus levels, and 20 bounty hunter missions to go before we've reached our goal of 100%ing the randomizer, and it only makes sense to tackle episode 2 first. First out of the 3 categories we have left, but last out of all the... After asking around in the randomizer Discord, link below by the way, Viola had said I needed to get behind the door to super jump through. This was pretty vague, but I was assuming I needed to set my respawn point behind the door, then hover inbounds and do a super jump through to the transition. I tried this, but it wasn't working. He kept getting his respawn point set at an arbitrary place inbounds in the hallway. I was stuck. I kept fiddling around with different setups like jumping into the door, trying to super jump from different positions, and nothing. The solution ended up being completely accidental. I got Django stuck in the collision beneath the door, and after failing a super jump out of it, I walked Count Dooku over close enough to swap over to him. And I swapped at the exact moment he super jumped up, which I guess hit the proper side of the transition and sent me through. I'm not going to question it. There's still quite a lot that can go wrong in this level, the main area of conflict being the bomb bridge and everything after. If we didn't get a bounty hunter panel for the elevator, which we didn't, I was going to be at another loss. I figured I could try and fall back on the classic super jump, but after finding an area that worked well, I only managed to get out of bounds once in my hundreds of tries, and even then I couldn't move anywhere. I thought I could maybe hover behind the collision of the elevator and clip back in bounds, but only one of my 100 more attempts looked even remotely promising. Then I realized, alright, this room has a drop-in warp. These aren't as common in LEGO Star Wars as they are in, say, Into Your Batman, but it's as simple as dropping in a character in a spot where the game spawns them out of bounds. It's been used in levels like Chancellor in Peril to skip the panel in speedruns, or more famously in the library room in Ruin to skip the lever puzzles. We got lucky with the panel type in the last room of Camino, finally leaving the planet after days and days of deliberation. So what next? Are you expecting some sort of crazy strats on Droid Factory or some weird tech in Jedi Battle? Then you'd be very disappointed that these were even easier than a casual playthrough, thanks to all the extras we've got. Did you want me to talk about Gunship Cavalry? Because I don't really want to, I hate that level. Well, what about Count Dooku? Surely something there has to be worth covering. Yeah, sort of. So we can't actually pull down the levers to enter the main boss fight, nor can we use the Force to clip out of bounds here either, since we only have 2 blaster characters. I was expecting some sort of crazy movement or mind-blowing trick to get us through the door, but the solution to this seemingly impenetrable problem is just to shoot Dooku a bunch of times in a row. When you deflect the bolts, he moves a few inches closer to you, and then you can run with him to the door once you've hit the little cutscene trigger. This game rocks. All that's required of you in the real fight is to spam punch him until he dies for the second time in the run, but not the last time in canon. And realize that you just spent about a week straight playing LEGO Star Wars and you still aren't done, because you have some bonus levels to complete. These all went aggressively normal, besides Anakin's flight where this happened. Don't know what caused this, and you do not want to know the solution. Thanks to our insane luck with Bounty Hunter unlocks and 100%ing each movie, we had access to the Bounty Hunter missions, which was the absolute final thing we needed to do. These missions were interesting because while the characters we spawned in as were random, they were the same across all 20 missions. The bounties themselves were also randomized, which was cool, but what the f did Droid 2 do to deserve a bounty on their head? And how did they put a bounty on a ghost? You can't even beat this bounty because you can't physically touch the character. But I just unrandomized the mission to get past it. This eventually led us to our final bounty, where we can head into my real-time reaction to finishing the complete randomizer. It's like 1 a.m. I've been grinding out these bounties all night, and this is the final gold brick of the randomizer. 100% gold bricks should now be done, unless something weird happens, which isn't out of the question. This whole thing's been weird. But that should be the final one. Oh, we did it. Oh my god. That means we should be able to go out here and build this. Oh. And there it is. There it is. Oh, useless. Completely useless. So we're at 96.2. I'm trying to think of what we're missing. Oh. Oh, hold on. We're not done. Okay, so I was missing the challenge kits in episode 4, but when I finished those, it was over. In just under a full day of in-game time, might I add. Shout out to this YouTube commenter who guessed the closest possible time to my completion time. You get a gold star, guy. Yeah, I'm still missing a character, and yeah, I didn't do the super stories, but come on, can you blame me? It's just the same game over again, but with no extras. It's by far the worst part of this game. I hadn't 100%ed this game since I was like 14, and the randomizer was a great way to do it. It offered up such a fresh take on the game that added a bit of challenge that's usually missing from games that are made for children, and I wouldn't mind doing another playthrough of it, whether it's on a stream or for a future video, if that's what you guys want to see. You can find a link down below to the randomizer Discord and all the downloads you will ever need if you want to try the game out for yourself, and trust me, it is far worth the grind. There will be plenty of more randomizer content down the road to come in other games and even the same one, but for now I am going to find an even worse challenge to challenge myself with for the next video. Bye!